Welcome back to Iron Archery Outdoors, guys. We're going to talk about a little something. As far as arrows, okay, everybody, I hear it all the time, is what's the best arrow for me? Or what's everybody shooting for arrow setups? Or what's the best arrow weight? Or, hey, I want to shoot a heavy arrow, what should I do to build one? Whatever, okay? The thing is it's a very overtalked thing, and there's no secret remedy of like, this is the best arrow, or this is the best arrow, whatever. What the best arrow is what you're going to use it for, and what your intentions are for, and what you're expecting out of that arrow, okay? Now, and also the biggest, a big variance in that is, what are you shooting for draw length? What are you shooting for draw weight? What's your max yardages? Okay, things like that. If you're just a backyard shooter, you can shoot anything. Okay, if you're going to 3D shoots and you're shooting long distance, well, we're gonna say 100, 120, maybe 130 yards. Okay, now you want to be a little on the lighter side. If you're strictly a whitetail hunter in the whitetail woods, you shoot maximum, say, let's say 40 yards, right? Bump the arrow weight up a little bit, get some more energy, okay? But where's the line saying this is too heavy, this is too light, okay? I'm gonna say it right now that honestly, a 400 to a 450 grain arrow is so average across the United States of America in a whitetail world scenario that has honestly killed more whitetails than anything else, okay? We all see the whole ranch fairy arrows that are 700 grains, whatever. I got my opinions on that. I'm not going to go down that road. But most animals he's shooting is 30 yards and in on a feed. I'm going to put that on the thing. Or big animals. Let's say elk, moose size in Africa, Cape buffalo, kudu, zebra, whatever, they're big, heavy boned animals that don't react fast. I'm going to put that out there right now. End of that conversation. So you want my opinion on, well, I'm going to say for my setup, what I do with my arrows, what I do with my builds, and my specs, okay? Me, personally, I'm shooting a Hoyt AX2 29 28-inch draw length at 78 pounds. Okay, I shoot a lot of 3D. So I'm shooting anywhere from 5 yards to 140 yards. Okay, I'm shooting a 405 grain arrow. This is a RIP TKO 300 spine, AAE hybrid 23 vanes with an IP5 knock. I have a 16 grain aluminum insert with a 100 grain Easton match grade tip and an 18 grain Easton #2 collar. Okay, to get my FOC up a little bit. I don't totally focus on FOC. I don't think it's as crucial and super important as people make it to be. Is there a fine line of where it can play a factor? Yes. Field tips or 3D arrows, stuff like this, not as much, my opinion. Okay. But 400 grain out of 78 pounds out of this bow is shooting right around 308, 310 feet per second. Okay, like I said, I'm shooting a lot of long distance, and a lot of people say, well, it's too light, you're gonna get a ton of wind drift, all this stuff. Okay, if you get a super light arrow going super slow, it's gonna get a ton of wind drift. Now, if you're shoving a 400 grain arrow at 310 feet per second, you gotta kind of break even away from the odds, because you're lighter, yes, it's going to drift a little bit more, yes, but it's covering that much ground faster. Okay, now if I shoot a 500 grain arrow at 300 feet per second, you are going to get significantly less arrow drift. Okay, that's just out there. So, and it's the same thing. If I shoot a 500 grain arrow at, say, 250 feet per second compared to a 400 grain arrow at 300 feet per second, your wind drifts are honestly probably going to be about the same, realistically, okay? So, but are you going to get more energy out of the 500 grain arrow? Not really. Okay, that's the factor, is where so many people think heavy arrows more energy. I can do the numbers of this arrow and this arrow, and my energy numbers are really close. They're within a few pounds. Okay, but the difference is you're getting more momentum with this arrow. Momentum is the key number if you're building a hunting arrow. Plain and simple. Okay, am I focused on momentum and energy with a 3D arrow? No, I don't care. Okay, the only thing I'm worried about, energy and momentum, is when I'm putting an arrow through an animal. That is plain and simple what your intention is to do. Okay, so my sweet spot for broadheads is, this is a Day 6 Evo X, 1.25" cut, 3/4 inch bleeders. This arrow is, with 3/4 inch bleeders with Day 6, is 133 grains. Okay, I have measured, or I've weighed all three, I have a 6-pack of these heads. All 6 of these heads are within a half a grain. Being totally serious. They were between 132.3 or 4 to 132.7. Somewhere now. Within a half a grain. Very good tolerances. Then I'm shooting a 75 grain Ethics titanium hit insert with an Iron Will 10 grain titanium collar. This insert goes back in here about this far. So there's a lot of material in front of this arrow. Very robust front. It's going to hit hard. And I'm shooting that on a Rip TKO 250 spine, cut at 26.5 inches. So it's a very stiff arrow. Okay, so when it hits, it's not going to be all weeble wobbly all over. It's going to hit and it's going to drive. Then I'm shooting a 1 Stinger 5-inch wrap, but this year I'm running the Boning Alpha vein. I'm really liking these veins so far because this arrow setup's flying really well. Then I'm running my new Amazon Nox, the brand is Rakawa, and the lighted Nox, and to be honest with you, they're shooting extremely well. I'm probably never going to buy a brand name Nox again. So honestly, these shoot more consistent than Nocturnals. I'm going to put that out there right now. And the brag. So, going back into the importance and where is the happy medium setup for you? What you really need to do is simply do the math. Literally going to break that down with you. Is if you want to find an arrow that works best for you, play it in this scenario. If I'm going to go elk hunting, this is a super ideal elk arrow for my setup. Okay, I'm not getting crazy trajectories. Okay, I'm shooting this arrow relatively flat. This arrow is coming out of my bow about 275 feet per second. Okay, that's a really nice happy medium. Now you start taking a fixed blade broadhead of this size, 1.25" cut, stuff like that, and you start pushing it too fast, it's going to be hard to get true flight, especially if your form and your shot execution is not consistent. That's the biggest thing. Okay, you slow a fixed blade down, it's going to shoot better. Period. Okay. If I could shoot this arrow at 200 feet per second, it would fly extremely well. Really, really well. Okay, so, but 270, 280 feet per second for me personally is a really happy ground because I can shoot a good size fixed blade and without being ridiculously huge. But I can shoot a good size fixed blade, put a good hole through that animal, get good blood trails, and put that animal down as soon as I can. Okay, I'm not personally a big fan of mechanicals. I've personally never had one fail other than one. But being a time I kind of changed the way my style of hunting and what I was doing, I wanted to get away from it because if I ended up with a shot scenario where, stuff happens, a buck turns in on you on the shot, or jumps the string a little bit, gives you a weird angle, whatever, things happen. I didn't want to end up with a scenario where the deer turns or steps back right as I'm letting the arrow go and smacks a shoulder blade and get no penetration, or blades break off and now I got a wounded animal. Okay, this, at least I know, with my setup, it is, if I end up in that scenario and I catch a shoulder blade, I'm not worried that something's failing in this arrow. Period. Okay? On that fact of it too, is trajectory-wise, is, I'm not going to say it's such a scenario in the hunting world because, which it is, but it's very pick and, I mean, if you're in a tree stand hunting whitetails, trajectory is not really a big deal. Okay, it's not. Now, if I am out west and I'm gonna say in some brush country with, you know, an elk at, let's say, 45 yards, 50 yards, and I got a hole to shoot through. Do I want to be shooting a super slow arrow where I could potentially catch brush? No. Now, is there too fast where, okay, there's a log between us, the log is, say, 30 yards, the bull is at 40 yards or 45 yards, and I'm shooting super flat, and that log is basically above center of that body on that animal, I'm going to be a little more worried because now I potentially have to aim a little high. Or I can utilize my little trajectory and not worry about it, put my pin where I want to hit that animal and let that arrow go over. Okay, that's all things of knowing your setup and shooting and practicing your setup and knowing, okay, at 40 yards, I'm getting roughly about a foot trajectory. Okay, now I can utilize that to my math and my subconscious knowing is, okay, I'm going to hit that tree. Or no, I can get over that tree, or I can get underneath that tree. What, you know, different scenarios, and which can highly benefit your success big time. I've been there, and I've been in those scenarios, and luckily, I knew my trajectories, at least had a good idea where it was and where that arrow was going to be roughly, you know, as far as height wise. So those are things to know. Okay. Now, in the whitetail woods, honestly, out of pretty much, I'm going to say any setup, really, above, I'm going to say 50 pounds. I'm going to say 50 to 80 pounds in that range. Okay. Obviously, depending on the bow you're shooting, a lot of people base arrow setups off of pounds. I don't really prefer that because you can have a 50 pound, well, we're going to say a 50 pound APA King Cobra DG and a 50 pound Matthews Lift X 33. There's a major feet per second difference in there. I'm going to say that right now. And even on this, I'll put an example. My buddy that was just over yesterday, he has a APA King Cobra TF shooting 64 pounds, and I'm shooting a Hoyt AX2 29 at 78 pounds. We are only an inch draw length difference. I'm shooting 28, he's shooting 29, and he is only shooting 2 feet per second slower than me with the same arrow. That's a big difference. Okay, I mean, we're shooting 14 pounds draw weight difference, and we're like 2 feet per second difference. So put that into perspective. Okay. So back into that, draw weight, speed ranges, whatever. A 450 to 500 grain arrow in that area is going to be pretty ideal for, I'm going to say 75% of bow hunters out there. Period. Across the board. Whether you're shooting mule deer, elk, whitetail, whatever. Now, if I'm going to go shoot moose, where I'm going to be a little closer and I want to maximize as much momentum as I possibly can, and speed is not my thing to worry about, because honestly, you shoot a moose at 40, 50 yards, it's not going to move, period. Okay? It's like shooting a cow. Okay? I might shoot a 600 grain arrow just to boost up my momentum a little bit. But with this setup, honestly, I wouldn't be worried about with this arrow one bit either, because yes, I'm shooting 85, almost 90 foot-pounds. Okay, that's going to go through anything in North America that I want to shoot, period. So, going into that, I mean, honestly, just do the numbers. Pick an arrow spine that you like, whether you want a heavy arrow spine or a heavy arrow GPI or a lighter arrow GPI. Broadhead-wise is where I kind of start to focus a little bit more on FOC. More weight in the front is going to help your broadhead flight. It's just gonna. It's like a missile. Missiles are not tail heavy at all. They're front heavy for a reason. Okay? People think, well, archery is not rocket science. Well, in theory it is. We're still shooting a projectile as stable and as fast as we can put it. Okay? If I could shoot this arrow at 400 feet per second and be super stable and super accurate, I would. That'd be super cool. Okay? Onto that, I kind of lost my grain of thought there. What was I going after? Oh yeah, weights. Is pick an arrow and put different weight tips on it. Start with, like, say 85. Or even 75. 75, 85, 100, 125, 150, 175, 200. And if you're shooting inside 40 yards in a whitetail woods, that's what you do. That's what you are. I mean, me, I'm an eat, sleep, breathe whitetail hunter. That's me through and through. I love it. Okay. But pick an arrow, pick weights, screw them on there, shoot them through a chronograph, do the math, and figure out your energies, your feet per seconds. Okay. Simple math. Okay. You take your feet per second times feet per second. Take that total, times that by the weight of the arrow, then you take that number divided by 450,240. Okay? It's simple math. That will give you your kinetic energy. I don't know the math for momentum, but there's online calculators that'll calculate that out for you. Okay? But you can start there, then you can kind of break it down farther into momentum if you want to. But pick some weights, start with those, do your math, figure out what's good for you and what you like. Okay? It's not all about, well, I'm going to put this weight on the front because that's what my arrow tunes do. Yes and no. Okay? Traditional recurve longbows, yes, that's how you tune them. Can you tune that a little bit with the bow, with a compound? Yes, because you can simply overweight an underspined arrow by quite a bit. Okay? Now, if I'm shooting a 350 spine arrow at 90 pounds with 150, 200 grains up front, it's probably not going to tune very good because it's a very weak shaft for that. Okay, I'm going to say if you do a calculator or look at arrow spine charts and you shoot 28 inches at 70 pounds and it's saying a 350 grain arrow, don't be shy to buy a 300 spine arrow. Okay, it's always better to be a smidge over spine than under spine. Okay, because you have the room to put more weight in the front if you need to. Okay, and you're gonna see it with broadhead flight, especially fixed blades. Mechanicals, not so much. But with a fixed blade head, if you are under spine, it is gonna show it. Okay, this spine right here is plenty stiff for what I'm shooting. Okay, with a 250 spine arrow at 26.5 inches, it's more probably closer to like a 200 spine arrow. Okay, but that's what I wanted. I want it stiff, I want it to hit, and I don't want it to flex and break. Okay, mind you, you can't control an arrow breaking, but I wanted a strong arrow. And so if I do catch hard bone, it's gonna drive, it's gonna push right through it. And that was my full intentions, and it's proven itself more than once for me. And so going down that rabbit hole, if you have questions, drop it in the comments. I'm going to do everything I can to answer your question as good as I possibly can. And like and subscribe. I talk about this kind of stuff quite often. I'm going to go further into other details as far as even arrow builds in general. Like what would I build an arrow for a certain circumstance? Like let's say animal hunting or mule deer hunting or whatever it might be. Okay, drop a comment in there. Hey, this is what I'm shooting. This is the arrow I'm shooting. This is roughly what it weighs. I'm going on an antelope hunt in 2026 in, we'll say Montana, and we'll say you're not hunting over a water hole. You're hunting completely fair chase antelope, where you might expect a 60-yard shot, 70-yard shot. Now, in those scenarios, keep in mind that antelope have extremely fast reflexes, and they're very prone to dodging arrows. So, drop a comment. I'll give you my inputs on that and what I would suggest to do, and anything I can to help. But that's kind of my ins and outs on arrow weights and your arrow setups. As far as that, there's no golden ticket of being like, this is the best arrow combination to shoot. Period. Shoot it. You're gonna have great success. That's not how it works. Plain and simple. So you got to build one to you and what you want to do with it, and your intentions of what that arrow your expectations of what you want from that arrow to do. Plain and simple. Okay? So, till next time, like and subscribe. Iron Out Your Outdoors. I'll see you on the next one.